Hi, I'm Claire Atherton, and this is episode 35 of Beating BDD, a podcast about body dysmorphic disorder from the BDD Foundation. Our guest for this episode is Kim Booker, whose BDD first emerged when she was just 5 years old. Now the mum of a 2.5-year-old, she's harnessing what she calls the BDD warrior within to raise awareness of the disorder while continuing with her own recovery. Kim is incredibly honest and open about her experience, including the darkest moments, so some listeners may find parts of her story upsetting. But she also shares so many fantastic insights, particularly around the decision to become a parent and the impact of undergoing repeated cosmetic treatments. So please do stay with us if you can. Finally, this podcast is funded as a result of the Big Give campaign. Thank you to our champion sponsor Jack, or Just Ask a Question, and our community sponsors Ori UK, the Nightingale Hospital and Blonde's Fine Art. You'll find more information on our sponsors in the show notes. Here's the interview. Hi Kim, thank you so much for joining us on Beating BDD. We're actually doing this in person, which is a rare event, so it's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you in person and yeah, put a face to the voice.
Exactly. And we've had we've had to ban a dog from the room.
Oh, yeah.
We had a dog pitter-pattering around and making some interesting noises, so we've got rid of that particular input. So I wanted to start by just saying congratulations on becoming a mum, because I think you're actually the first parent I've interviewed for the recovery stories, so that's great.
No, yeah, which it does really blow my mind at that.
Yeah.
That's okay. So yeah, to be here.
Oh, brilliant.
Okay.
And I also I found it really interesting when we were chatting before that you talked about your post-motherhood journeys being an opportunity to really heal. And I wondered if you could explain that a bit more, if it's possible to explain where that feeling comes from.
I think there's just so many huge changes when you become a mother, and a lot of purpose and a lot of, well, you become a parent, but in becoming a parent, you have to reparent yourself. And just witnessing Cora and all of the love that she brings and all of those emotions that she brings, I often see little me. And she's just this most incredible little human. And yeah, I just really want to do good by her. But I find that there's two parts to my recovery story. There's the recovery story before motherhood, and then the one after Cora. And yeah, it's just been a really big emotional ride. And we obviously go through something called matrescence, which is very similar to adolescence in terms of our brain and you know, the hormonal.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking up if you're embarking on motherhood, that's for sure. Because I only heard of the term when I became a mother. And I think when you become a mum, I felt like it just stripped everything from me. So I used to have some of my energy would go on to BDD recovery, some of my energy would go on to work or various things or interests, and then BDD would scoop up the rest. And that was how it kind of was for a very long time. BDD was probably the most dominant in that. Even when I was on some version of recovery, I call it more awareness. I became aware of BDD. And then after having Cora, this is the actual recovery.
I mean, I guess it's just a massive shift in identity, isn't it?
Well, this is it. And I think who you thought you were before having a child is actually, I'm learning that I just feel like a completely different person. And that's the thing. I think it's been really hard because obviously when you go through matrescence, when you go through all those huge hormonal changes, and in our case, extreme sleep deprivation, it's actually really taught me the trigger points of BDD. And actually, I find, you know, when I've got that mood instability, that's where I really noticed that BDD voice creeping in when I hit those lows. And post having Cora, as much as I pretended I was okay, I was actually really struggling with that internal BDD narrative. And it was terrifying because I really want to be a present mother. That is like the huge thing for me. But I felt guilt and shame and worry that the BDD was I wasn't present because of it. So that's really spurred me on to, I can't let it take me away from her. And I've said this before, I think, in at various other places, but it's just really, really important to me now to do this properly, and not just figure out who I am as a mother, as a parent, but also figure out who I am outside of Cora, and like who I am, my identity, and without the many masks I've worn throughout my entire life. So yeah, I'm still living with it.
Yeah. I mean, she's only little, is she 2?
She'll be coming up 2.5 at Christmas time. So
yeah, you're still working it out, obviously.
Still always
She's
figuring
young.
out. You're never not figuring out with this kind of thing. And honestly, every single day she teaches me something new, not just about her, but myself. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's these patterns and these things that we've learned along the way. And actually, you look at yourself a lot more deeply now, well, I do, than I think I ever actually had the capacity to before, because I've got this person depending on me.
Yeah, exactly. That's really interesting. The other thing I wanted to ask you about before we start talking about your BTD story was just about how much you're putting yourself out there and talking about it. So you've been really present on social media, talking about your experiences. You've spoken at the BTD Foundation conference, didn't you? And you've even been at a parliamentary committee, haven't you, to talk about the impact of body image on mental and physical health. So what is the big motivator there? Because all of this takes a lot of courage, doesn't it, to really put yourself out there?
Yeah. So I have always, I think a lot of my BDD manifested from not feeling seen and heard. I've always had a strong sense of justice within me. And it goes way, way back when I was a kid. I think before I went through adolescence, becoming a teenager, there was this child that was trying to find her way. And there's one story that stands out. And we were waiting at the school gates one day, all the girls and all the boys. Girls had skirts on and socks, no tights. The boys had trousers. And the girls were shivering and the boys seemed okay. And I said to one of the boys, I was like, are you cold? He's like, no, I'm okay. And like, we're freezing. Why are we wearing skirts? And so then I went to the teacher and I said, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, well, why are we wearing skirts? It's like the middle of winter. And she said, well, that's the uniform. That's the way it is. So I was like, well, I'm going to get everyone to sign a petition. And then went round the whole my class. And then and everybody signed it and I handed it to her and I was like, see, now we need to wear trousers. And she looked like she was chewing on a wasp. I remember her face, like it just got to her and then nothing happened. And I felt really invalidated in that moment. So it made me feel quite angry. And I think I always refer back to that when I think about some of the stuff that I've done recently, like talking about BDD. And I just think there's always been this mini activist within me, and a person that needs to be heard and seen in terms of something that I've really struggled with. Because I just, there's cliches that may say I don't want anyone else to feel what I've felt.
Yeah, and I think that's a great motivating factor, isn't it? It's a real drive that to help others.
Yeah.
So can you talk me then through your early years and what you think made you vulnerable to developing BDD?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many layers to it, but I guess I can start with that I was a sensitive child, very sensitive child, and in a household that wasn't sensitive to my needs. I lived in quite a chaotic household, a lot of anger, violence. No emotional maturity or stability for me. I had no one really that I felt safe to anchor to. It was quite materialistic. My parents owned a gym and they were very appearance orientated on top of that. We also go back to the 90s and it was Barbie's princess. I think I asked my mum the other day, because I love Lego now, and I said, did I play with Lego? She's like, no, it's Barbie's doll. That's how it was back then. She's Kiwi, by the way. Terrible Kiwi accent. No doll. But yeah, so it was just that was just kind of, not for every kid, but it was just that it was kind of put on some girls, like, this is what you do and this is how it is. So obviously them being my caregivers, and I was very attached to what they were attached to, obviously, and surrounded by people looking at themselves lifting weights with mirrors everywhere. So I think I also have learned since becoming an adult, that there is definitely a neurodivergent way to me. And I think when you're not seen, when you're not heard, when you're not sure of yourself, you don't feel like you belong. I mean, I went to 9 different schools in my childhood, so I never felt like I fit or placed anywhere. And that in time, that's anxiety. That's where it thrives. And then if you've got the sort of brain that I have, or that we have with BDD, you're looking for safety, and therefore you find safety behaviours, i.e. BDD was mine, because it makes so much sense when you put all those layers together. So that's what I've dug into and found in my time. So yeah, I think as my dad was also, when I say appearance orientated, he's no longer with us now, sadly, but he used to spend a lot of time in the bathroom and had a lot of behaviours around his appearance.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's very interesting. So I think I think he may have had the signs of BDD of some sort. And then also my auntie as well. She, I remember when I was a kid with her, and we always used to joke about how much we looked in the mirror. And then when I've spoken to her as an adult, and she's like, "Oh, I do that. Oh, I do that." And I was like, "Okay, so this is quite strong here. If you've got 2 siblings, I don't know about he's got 8, 9 brothers and sisters, so I'm not sure if anybody else shares that and had that conversation. But it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's a big mixed bag.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, wasn't there? A lot of influences. But I remember you saying as well that actually it sort of manifested, the behaviour started really quite young with you, in infant school.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So there was, I've got lots of early memories, but there's this one that in particular, I remember I knew I was at infant school because it was called Field End and I had a red cardigan. And when I do in child work, I don't know if you've ever done that before, it takes me back to this like this little girl that you imagine. It's always that little girl with a bob and a red cardigan. So I think around about 5, a lot was happening. I think you go to school, don't you? Like big things are happening. And I'm not sure if that's when it started. It may have been a little bit earlier, because it really, I mean, I basically used to sit in class and ask to go to the toilet multiple times to go and look in the mirror. And it's really strange just to position my lower lip, and so I showed my bottom teeth. And then I would look at myself in that way, and I was like, yes, this looks okay. I look all right like this. I need to keep my lip in this position all of the time. Imagine like a 5-year-old. And when I describe it, it just doesn't make any sense. And I must have looked a bit strange, actually. But like really sad, because I think of like Cora, she's 2.5 and not far off of 5. And the thought of her doing that, or feeling the need to obsessively do something like that doesn't really make a lot of sense, rather than just enjoying her environment and being in the class with other kids. That's kind of, how strong it was. But yeah, the mirror side of things, that started very early on. And it didn't start off as a dislike of how I looked. It was just a lot of fascination over how I looked, a lot of staring and trying to figure out myself out and in the world. And then it kind of grew from there.
How did it then grow? How did it develop as you got older?
Again, there's lots of layers to this part, because there's so many segments in life, isn't there? I think if you move into adolescence and teenage years, that was a really confusing time, because I remember, I think we just chatted about this before, from the day that I went from not wearing makeup to wearing makeup. And all it was is a little bit of mascara. And it was like the world had changed around me overnight. I started getting attention from boys, and it was like really quite shocking, actually. And it was confusing as well, because I went from being like completely like nobody, like I was like the little person in the corner of the room that no one saw, and then suddenly I felt really seen. And then when you attach your identity to that, to the appearance side of things, then that became quite obsessive. Well, okay, well now I'm getting attention. I've been sort of pretty much neglected, and now I'm getting attention. So therefore, oh my gosh, I need to keep this appearance going and keep adding to it and adding to it. And as you do with BDD, it just snowballs, and everything becomes, your hair has to be a certain way, and your makeup has to be a certain way, and what you wear, and then it was just, everything was just appearance. And then it went on into later teens, and then I found alcohol. And that became from about the age of 15, maybe a little bit younger, it was just blackout drinking. And I now know for sure that was just escapism. It was just, especially to get blackout drug the way that I did, it was the one time I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't have to think, I'm unconscious. Like I just, because it was just so, not only you had I had quite a chaotic family life and felt quite lonely, really lonely, because I never really felt like I said before, like belonged or could fully connect to people. And then you sort of think, well, when you've got to be like, when it's that rabid in your mind, if that's the word, how can you? Because you're so preoccupied with all of these things. So yeah, I think like by that point I'd already like created all the masks to try and fit in, but in that point you like throw the mask off out the door kind of thing, and there was a liberation to it, but it also came with so many dark moments as well, really unsafe, scary moments. As a teenage girl. So yeah, you sort of latch on to people that are not there for you in a good way.
I was going to ask you about that next, actually, about how things like your friendships and relationships in general changed during that period, how they were affected by your BTD and your drinking.
Well, I, again, didn't really... I ended up hanging out with an older crowd. And again, like, I don't really... If I look back, I can't really remember, like, why we were... I think it was just the alcohol and sometimes drugs as well. And there was a point as well where I think because I was so vulnerable, there was an older guy and I was groomed. I had a situation where I was groomed, and that was kind of like, it really just dawned on me in the last couple of years, because he was a lot older than me, and there was a lot of feeding me drink and drugs and I always remember this girl when we were at a party, and she was like, what do you like? He's a lot older than, like, she was really concerned. And at the time I was sort of laughing it off. But now when I think back, I was like, she was right.
How old were you then?
I was probably about 15. And I think he was like maybe 20 or something like that. Yeah. Which is terrifying, isn't it, really? Because you just think that they're this... he just seemed amazing to me because he's older and, had some kind of something about him and all that kind of stuff. But actually, yeah, he wasn't a good egg.
Yeah. And it sounds as if by that point your identity was also pretty consumed by the BDD, was it, would you say?
Yeah.
Only the drinking would
just...
would relieve that, but otherwise that was sort of who you were.
Yeah, it was all kind of looks orientated, and I needed attention. And that was the way I got it, really. And yeah, then I turned 18, and I remember specifically turning 18 because I went and had lip filler. And again, to try and chase that narrative of looking the sort of appearance that I had in my mind. I never smiled. I didn't ever show my teeth when I smiled because I had what I perceived as a gummy smile. And it was to try and cut, because that was it. I was reading, I think it was Vogue magazine, and it was like how to conceal your gummy smile, which is horrific, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then poor old me who has that is reading it, and then one of the options was lip filler, and I was like, and I knew my mum had Botox. I knew that woman did lip filler, and I was like, instant, and I literally just couldn't wait to do it. And I didn't do anything for a while after that. It wasn't until mid-20s, after a long bout of drinking and partying and stress and losing my dad and business issues that my mum left. Like, it was just a snowball of horrible events and trying to take my life as well. I feel like I paused then because I was like, do I say this? But I think you've got to when if you're going to be vulnerable, we have to talk about these things. And then I decided to enroll myself in becoming a fitness bikini model.
Is that essentially like bodybuilding?
Bodybuilding, and my dad was a bodybuilder, and it seemed like a kind of a nod towards him, but actually in reality it was just the ultimate control over my body. And again, getting that validation from how I looked, once again, because that's what I'd learned as a child, really. There's pros and there was cons, because I didn't drink. So that was the first time, I stopped drinking, but then I started becoming quite obsessive around food, as you have to with that kind of thing. And then, it was all based on how I looked. And then I think after that, after a while, because you lose so much body fat, I looked I thought, a bit older and tired and gaunt, which can happen. And my coach at the time suggested fillers.
Really? So that's part of the look, is that you have to be also facially perfect, as well as...
Yeah. In fact, if anything, that's actually one of the more important things, like hair, face, that kind of... but they would change. They would change it like quarter to quarter in terms of what body type they wanted.
Really?
So you've got to have bigger shoulders. Or actually, no, this time it's bigger thighs. And it's like, how the hell?
You keep up with that?
You can't, but it takes time to build muscle. So it was a crazy world to be in. And I remember exiting it. I remember being at this show, and it just felt really, there was lots of primping and preening, and when you just feel like you're in a room where everybody's just very focused on how they look. And I think it was like this moment of like, and I just burst into tears. I did the show, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. I can't do it. It just didn't feel, something just snapped in me, or like, just, you have those wake up moments. I was like, this isn't healthy. This isn't good for me. Someone also tried to sell me steroids as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was just like, it just all felt wrong. So and then obviously took my coach's advice, and that is where the road, the hell of filler began. And it was back in 2000, about 2014, 15 or something like that. And it was really interesting, like looking back at photos now. At the time I thought it looked okay, but I just had so much put in my face. And looking back at photos, I looked like is it the Michelin Man? Like, it was just very like square jaw, big cheeks, like Maleficent cheeks. And it was actually seeing the distortion in, like, my distortion becoming apparent, because I would look at the phone camera, which isn't a clear image of your face, and I would base it on that, not how I actually look in real life, because I didn't know really. And it just manifested. And I think I must have looked quite unusual, potentially, in real life. That's what I believe. And then again, with all these things, I just had a moment of like realization. Like, you have panic moments, so you do all these things, and then you'll sit with it for a while, and then suddenly you're like, I remember like waking up in the middle of the night, and I was like, oh my God, it's too much. It's too much. I'm like trying to massage it out my face, and I was like, oh my God, I'm stuck. And then it settled. And then I then went even further. I had rhinoplasty, and because of a filler situation in my nose where they overfilled it. I walked into a glass door, my nose went to the side, and there was really not much else I could do but try and fix it. But he did say, he had to put a cast in my nose. He said, you're going to have to wear this for a year, because you had so much filler in your nose that it's weakened the cartilage. And that really blew my mind. I've lost count how many estheticians. I've been to doctors, nurses, people that you really think that you're in good hands with, and have had bad outcomes. Maybe that's my perception of it, because BDD are very particular, aren't we? And we fantasize about how we envisage ourselves looking after a treatment, and it's sometimes not reality. So I'm not going to put all the onus on them. But I got pregnant, and the filler migrated and puffed out, which is what can sometimes happen
as a result of pregnancy. It's part of the hormone.
Wow. It was just like, it's because it's water. It's hyaluronic acid. It's all water. Yeah. And then I have quite a strong inflammatory response, which I've also noticed with fillers or anything like that. So, and then I panicked, and I was like, I can't have this. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go and see someone, and they're like, dissolve it. So I dissolved it. Panicked, because actually 10 years had passed, and the filler was hiding 10 years of aging. So I didn't leave the house for 2 weeks after that. And that was really sad. And then I had it put back in again. And then I had more put in and more put in and more put in. And this was all around the time of, I think when you not just, because obviously I was like Cora still young, but when enough time had passed, I was still very low. I was still struggling with my appearance and like, so many bodily changes. And when you're, we're so detail orientated on those minor changes sometimes that, it's a lot to take on. So then I had it all dissolved again. And I was left with lumps and bumps. And if I smiled, the filler was pulling my cheek down when I smiled and pushing part of my lower eyelid up, so it scrunched. And I was getting fluid retention in areas because obviously now I know it was blocking lymphatic drainage. And I recently went to have an ultrasound to actually see if I had fibrosis, scar tissue, or whether it was filler. Fortunately, it was filler. And yeah, she just said that whoever had done the filler, they hadn't done it correctly and they hadn't done it deeply enough, and it was in the subcutaneous area. And she just said, yeah, it was really, really bad. It was a bit of a mess, really. But fortunately, I think, touch wood, she's been able to help me. But what I'm getting at is, I do wish I'd never done it. I wish I'd never started that journey. I wish I'd found other ways to care for myself. But no, that was my journey, I guess. And but just please think twice, 3 times, 4 times. And also, a lot of my decisions, I've realised, have been made in my luteal phase. So I don't know if you don't know what the phases are in your monthly cycle.
Okay, yeah.
You've got your ovulation phase. You've got lots of estrogen, so it's your Beyonce phase. So everything like, you just feel really confident and quite good about yourself. And then it eventually goes into your luteal phase and your progesterone rises. I think that's the way it goes. And your estrogen drops dramatically. And everybody, BDD or not, you don't feel great in that time. You just don't feel good in yourself. And especially if you've got quite a big imbalance. And I've noticed that if you're in that phase and you know about your cycle, don't make decisions in that phase. Because I'd done that and I've come out of it into my Beyonce phase and I'm like, oh my God, no, because I don't know why I did that. And it's really, it's quite strong in that sense. I feel like I've gone on a tangent.
No, but that's an interesting tangent. And I mean, I think that's something for women to think about.
Yeah,
definitely.
Get to know your cycle.
Yeah.
It's been a huge one for me because I constantly have had mood issues and PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, so really intense PMS symptoms. And I was noticing, like going through therapy or CBT, it was really hard to keep on top of it because when that luteal phase comes about, you can't use the tools. You're just in the depths of despair almost. And BDD's like, oh, hello, I'm gonna come in there, look at it, and make it really bad. And so that's what I've been doing lately. I've been really trying to look at, what's going on in my hormones, what's going on in my gut, what's going on in my brain. What can I do here to just try and create balance in my body. And that's been really interesting. And I've noticed a lot more mental clarity and a bit more homeostasis since researching into that kind of thing.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I was going to ask you next, which we've started touching on, was just how you kind of moved on from that. Obviously, these really dark days when you were in this cycle of treatments and dissatisfaction and things. How did you begin to come out of that to where you are now? Because you weren't formally diagnosed, I don't think, were you? Ever?
No, I had a therapy session years ago when I was in my early 20s, and I told her all about, the story that far. That's that far along, and she just said it's a huge indication that you had BDD. But back then, it just wasn't really I was always wrong time, wrong place with that kind of thing. So, but it's, how did it all start? When did the awareness come in, I think is the question. Because although I was aware that I had an appearance issue, the like you kind of live with it, don't you? It just is. It's just is, and that's you, and it's just you don't. There's no you and BDD. You are BDD. And then it was, I think, I just started to get really fed up with it. I was like, I can't live like this anymore. I can't live like this. It's exhausting. And I think it was when social media came around, and I started writing. I actually stopped drinking for a couple of years, and I had an account called Yoga to Sober. And
oh, that's a great name.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, and I started doing yoga, and the yoga aspect, I don't know what it is about yoga, but there's a magic to it, because I only did like 10 minutes a day to begin with. I found it really hard, and it was more I couldn't breathe. I didn't know how to breathe. And I think there was just something inside of me that was like needing to be released. And the yoga just kind of gave me this space. And then I was like, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to just try and sort this out. I need peace. I need peace in my life. I can't live like this. And then so I was quite active on social media and writing about my sober journey. And then I started writing about BDD. And then I think it might be one that way around, or BDD first, but the foundation sprung up. I started following them, and they were looking for volunteers. And I guess maybe that little mini activist was there, and she's like, yes, go for it. And so I did. And I reached out, and I think it was Kitty who I spoke to initially, and it just kind of snowballed from there, really. And a lot of the time, like I didn't really know what I was doing or how I was getting. Like I just said yes. It was like a real yes year, because I was like, it felt really like, yeah, I have to just try and live. I need to live, and I'm so glad that I did that, because it again was another sense of purpose. It led me to community. It led me to the other people that had BDD. I didn't feel as lonely. The community, the people that have reached out and who we follow each other is just it's just so beautiful and supportive, and like, yeah, I feel so grateful to have found that way through,
seen and heard.
And
you?
and that's it. Yeah, there were times when I've gone into my shell, because I'm like, you do it. Why does anyone want to hear what I want to say? Am I just repeating myself? Why am I doing this? And it's hard to keep on top of it as well. You then have the kind of expectation, well, you need to keep posting every day. And I was like, well, I can't make it up. It is what it is. So then I retreat.
It's its own pressure, isn't it?
Yeah, it becomes the pressure in itself.
Posting.
Yeah. And I don't like pushing it. I don't want it. It has to be real and come. I write when I'm emotional, whether it's happy or sad or whatever. But if it's in anything in between, I can't do that. But anyway, that's going off on a different tangent.
You mean you're not this is my lunch, look at my lunch poster?
No, I did do that, but it never felt right. I know it was like, oh, I cringe. It's okay if you do that, it's fine.
Yeah. But, each to their own.
I like looking at people's lunch. I'm like, you do it. You do you.
What about the therapy side then? What have you had in terms of therapy to help you with your BDD? Anything specific?
So I did the group CBT with the BDD Foundation, which was a lovely group of people.
The program, the Overcoming BDD program, brilliant. Yeah.
So lovely facilitators. I was pregnant at the time, and I was a little bit, I was sort of there, but kind of not there almost. I think I was just so wrapped up in the pregnancy. So, and I do find it was really beneficial and it was lovely, but I think because I'm so easily distracted, I couldn't zone in on my own aspect. I was kind of just wanting to hear about everybody else's story and like getting wrapped up in that. So I've now gone on to one-to-one CBT for BDD, and I've found that a lot better. But it has been a bit stop-start because of like holidays, and I do need a consistent stream. It needs to be weekly for me. And then bloody cycle as well. Like that's where it's really come out and stood out to me is having the CBT. And then she sends me off to do this kind of homework. And then I'm like, I can't do it.
But again, awareness, knowledge is power with that one as well, isn't it? At least knowing that there's going to be however long a week, whatever it is, in a cycle each month when you just can't engage. You just got to accept it.
Yeah. And that's it. And it is hard to accept in those moments, I must say. But it's been great because it's given me. It's hard actually because it really showed me how little I have in terms of like hobbies. And I was like, oh my God, I don't do anything, because I feel like BDD is whenever I've been interested in something, and maybe it's the ADHD as well. I make it a perfectionism thing, and then either I or the BDD sucks the joy out of it, and then I run away from it. So I've never been able to fully see something through apart from yoga. And then I went through this, what felt like a huge depression. I was like, I have nothing about me. I've got no skills. I don't know who I am. Identity crisis. Yeah. And it was horrible. But after having the meltdown, I came back and the therapist brought me back and she was like, what are your values? What makes you, what are we going to do? Like, what can you do to find you? So, she's helped me. So I did that terrarium there.
Oh, wow.
Quite proud of it.
Amazing. Wow.
But it was really, it's a dinosaur land, Dinolandia.
Amazing.
But so that's one of the things. So I'm just trying to find creative Kim again. And I think maybe the more I find pieces of her, the more that little bit of self-confidence, not being a perfectionist, just finding more self-confidence in what I like. I watched a film the other night with Colin Farrell, the Irish.
Yeah, Colin Farrell.
And he's a gambler. Not that I'm gambling, but there was this bit in it, 2 bits, and it was almost like he was unmasking, and he was stood there with a glass of champagne. And he was like drinking the champagne. Why am I drinking? I hate champagne. Or there was a bit where he was smoking a cigar, and he's like, I hate cigars. Why am I smoking? And it was just these moments where what I'm trying to do is, well, who am I? What do I like? Because all I've ever done is, oh, you like that, I like that too. Yeah, okay, yeah, because I've got no...
It makes you fit in.
I need to fit in, and I need to be, part of the crowd or part of... So now I'm feeling quite like rebellious in that moment. It's not like, I can see myself following the line. I'm like, no, hold on a minute. Like, what do I like? Yeah. What do I want to do? So I'm hoping by doing that, I'll start to really uncover who I truly, truly am.
Well, that's exciting. That's an exciting journey, to be honest, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the difference. This side of recovery, I think, that's really stood out to me. Yeah.
What do you think is next? And do you have any other plans for what you'd like to do with the rest of your life?
I want to just get into lots of hobbies, really. Yeah. I want to do an art course next year, which is all playing with colour and stuff like that. I want to really develop my teaching. I absolutely, the past few times I've taught, I've really felt, I don't know, maybe because of this element of inner self coming through, I'm like, okay, this is something that I want to grow and develop. And then, figuring out those creative elements. And then actually, I would like to go through a career of therapy to learn to become a therapist of sorts for people with mental health issues and obviously BDD. That would be incredible. And it's always this voice and so, well, you're not academic and, you're never going to get through it. And I'm like, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? And so that would be, I've always had this, I've got this manifestation board, and all of them I've been ticked that I've done.
Great.
And there's just one with someone holding a scroll. So and that is, and I'm like, well, if I've done all the other ones and that's on there, then
I'm sure you can do that.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can do that.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope
absolutely.
so that would be really nice to be able to actually help people, but with a really good understanding of knowledge, not just lived experience, which is valuable, but actually knowing that I'm really truly helping people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really great. It's such a positive thing to do with your experience, isn't it? Turn it into something that really helps others. Yeah.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to come back to what we talked about at the beginning about parenting, because actually the decision whether or not to become a parent is such a big thing for people with BDD, and often I think really the BDD holds them back from doing it. And you've done it anyway. And I just wonder if there's anything you would say to someone who's got BDD and having that sort of, thinking about that decision, basically?
Yeah, it's all in hindsight now, because I have had people reach out to me and ask me, and actually sometimes not really knowing the answer. But if it's something that your heart truly, truly desires, don't let BDD stop it. But go in with your eyes open, as open as you can, because there's always going to be things that you're never going to be aware of until you become a parent. But I would say make sure you've got a good support system. So, the term is a village to raise a child. Sometimes we don't have access to that. So I think just try and find the support system that you can, because I'm going to be honest, you are going to be hormonal. You are going to be extremely tired. And those times BDD will try and swoop in. And just to be prepared for that. And if you can, have some kind of therapy alongside you. And actually, if I should say this, I'm going to say it. I think with your partner, if you've got a partner through the process, if you can, go and have a family session of therapy before you have the baby to really figure out what your roles are, what your values are around children, so that those things don't come up. Things will come up even regardless.
You can't
because
prepare for everything,
you can't
can you?
prepare for everything. But I in hindsight, that would have been a really great thing to do. And I genuinely believe that if you're someone with BDD and you're here right now, you're listening to this, you're doing some kind of therapy, you're trying to heal, we are the cycle breakers. And, I am terrified of Cora developing BDD and whether things that I do might rub off on her. But I fill her with so much love, and I try to make sure she's seen and felt and heard. And I can't imagine anyone with BDD not trying to do that. I think we could be really valuable in the world of parenting. So if it's your heart's desire, don't let BDD stop.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And I really agree with you. I think the experiences you have as a BDD person can really be turned around into something immensely positive in parenting, immensely positive. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So finally, what would you say to someone who's really struggling with their BDD now, from your experience and what you've learnt?
Well, I'm so glad you're here right now listening to the podcast, and I'm sure you've listened to all the ones previous, because that really helped me initially. That was one of the first things I started doing, and the tears that I just cried and cried. I mean, I always cry, but I'm a big crier. But yeah, it was such a release and a relief to hear other people's stories. So just finding common ground with other people, as sad as that is, that was hugely beneficial, like finding community. And even though I don't see many of these people, like, we're always like liking each other's posts or reaching out to each other in one way or another, and that's lovely. Keep getting the help. It's not linear, like nothing is linear. And what I've noticed is I've had dips in the road, big dips, especially again when I had Cora. And you think, oh my God, I've lost everything. It's gone. I'm never gonna feel like I did, when I was able to manage it better. And actually, you do manage it better every single time you break down, because those breakthroughs are huge moments of learning. It's because we're such big feelers and we're just so sensitive to the world around us. It's almost like an assault on our body, isn't it? And it's like, you're trying to crawl yourself out of it, and then eventually you do, and you do have more tools, and you're strong. You're so strong. Like I say this all the time as BDD warriors. If you can live with something that is actually quite crippling mentally and function, go to work, look like on the outside that everything is okay, that is extreme strength that you need to look at that and notice that and acknowledge how freaking strong you are. And that if you can do that, you can manage your symptoms and live a life that feels, I hope, comfortable enough, and because we deserve to be here and we deserve the right to happiness. So
Absolutely.
Keep going.
That's a perfect point to end on. Thank you so much, Kim. It was a really positive message. It's lovely to talk to you and meet you in person. Thanks a million for sharing your story.
I didn't cry, did I?
No, you didn't cry. So, absolute result. Thank you, Kim. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks again to Kim for sharing her story with such openness. I'm sure it'll help many people to feel, as she puts it, seen and heard. For more episodes, search for Beating BDD on major podcast apps and on Spotify. You can also leave us feedback by following the BDD Foundation on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. I'll be back with another interview next month. Until then, a reminder that this podcast isn't therapy, so please do seek help from a trained professional. Thanks for listening.